There are two ways to make money in any business, and one is to generate more revenue, and number two is to decrease your expenses. And in this video, I want to show you how you can play better defense and how you can learn from my $15,000 mistake in the midterm rental insurance niche. So, what is the midterm rental insurance niche? The midterm rental insurance niche is when you are offering temporary housing to displaced policy owners who have faced an unforeseen event and need a temporary housing solution for them. And that's what we are able to provide for them. And this is what I'm able to help multiple investors across the country partner with these relocation agencies as midterm slash insurance companies to be able to house these displaced homeowners who really don't have that many options when it comes to being temporarily housed, because most investors are not catering to this group. Therefore, this is where the opportunity exists. But now, what we can talk about being able to gross these great contracts, lucrative, profitable, because you're solving a large problem, that is actually a discount for a lot of these insurance companies who would have to house these families in a hotel and put the dogs in a kennel and boarding. All those fees actually end up exceeding what we're able to offer, because we provide a solution as operators, as short-term rental operators, provide fully furnished accommodations that can then have the family move in very swiftly, smoothly. Right now, what happens is, while we're able to land these contracts time and time again by partnering with great relocation agencies and great relocation specialists and insurance companies, sometimes going even direct, what happens is, while that is great that we land these great contracts, there's also a defense that needs to be played. Now, one of my videos that I've shot in the past, and one of the even on my show, is the 3 layers of defense that you're going to want to have. And I want to start there because recently we encountered as a company a big loss, which could have been prevented. And that loss can be prevented based on the way that you structure your business to have a great offense, which is to, again, have great partnerships, make sure you're searchable, findable, where these families can find you. And then, of course, a great defense that allows you to prevent any damage to your own home and the goods that you provide, quality goods. So what is that exactly that we could have done differently? Well, in my 3 layers of defense video, I talk about the importance of having solid home insurance that is not to be confused with a damage waiver policy, and not to be confused with your asset protection, which are all very different but can all achieve the same goal. You want to make sure your asset is properly protected. I am not your lawyer, but there are great resources out there that provide asset protection for liabilities. Speak with your insurance policyholder as well to understand what is actually in scope. If you're starting to operate your home like a commercial asset, you want to make sure you have that commercial coverage. One plug that I will give: proper insurance is great for that, because it turns your home into different types of coverage policies with respect to how you're using it. Again, you get what you pay for it, and that is why you're paying a premium to have an insurance policy with those folks. Again, not to be confused with the insurance policy holders that have their own policy when they come to your home, but this is you as the operator who actually has insurance, the right insurance in place, where it's definitely not primary insurance, or it shouldn't be, if you're going to have short-term rental tenants and or slash midterm rental tenants, temporary housing tenants. You want to make sure you speak to have the right coverage. So we're going to put that to the side, because that is not what we're talking about today. But what we are talking about is one of the layers of defense that I always put into my contracts to also make sure all parties have a win-win is a security deposit. Now, in the insurance space, you're not going to put your first and last month, because let's be honest, these families are in a dire situation where they're relocating and they're the ones paying for the security deposit. So you want to make sure that you're actually making it feasible for them to relocate in your home and not breaking the deal by having a too high of a security, right? We try not to go past $1,000 or $2,000, because we know that anything that's refundable, the family that's relocating is actually paying for that. And if they're going to pay for that, we want to make it easy. And sometimes we might even waive it, but you're not going naked as an investor where you're waiving it and then taking on all the risk. There are actual vendors out there where you can get some insurance policy coverage. Now, if you're playing it big time, you might have an umbrella policy, etc. But you can also get coverage on, again, I'm not here to name drop all these companies that do that, but I'm here to give a little bit of context so you can go in that direction, so I can plant the seed so you can go ahead and do your due diligence.
If you're currently getting value from watching this video, you'll want to make sure you take a second and click below to grab the midterm rental insurance blueprint to help accelerate your process in being able to land these midterm rental insurance contracts with respect to your marketplace. Make sure you click the button below and grab it and continue on with the gems in this video.
Because all these policies can change over time depending on when you're watching this. And all I want to do is point you in the right direction, that there are some damage waivers that you can put into place by working with vendors such as Wavo or Super Hogs. Those are vendors where you're going to want to look at them to see what their terms are, what they cover, what their cost is per booking, how long the time is. And that's going to be an additional layer of protection if you're, in this case, damages exceed your security deposit. Now, in our situation, that's exactly what it was. We had a family had 7 dogs. Originally, we had 3, but they then ended up having a puppy. And then this is when things started to get a little bit chaotic. Now, in our case, we did take a measure where we wanted to make sure that, the lease was still adhered to, but we knew going into it that there's going to be a lot more damages for a family that was staying for anywhere from 6 to 8 months that we're going to need to end up seeing at the end. Now, again, one of the biggest tips that I give is to always make sure you give your cleaners access to the property, because you can kind of tell the condition of things are, and we knew right away what condition this was going to be in, and it wasn't going to get any prettier in the end. So what we could have done and should have done earlier is make sure we had a damage waiver policy. We only had a security deposit, and that came to bite us in the butt, where we had to eat those costs because we're playing the long-term game, and we're not about to go to small claims court to get a tenant to pay for $15,000 worth of damage. We are playing the long-term game, and therefore we ate that cost, but we certainly wouldn't have had to if we had the right measures in place. So it's really important that we really start to think about, hey, what is the end goal here? And start thinking about really putting some systems into place so that you're not only honoring a family that's coming in, but you're also offsetting the risk and putting it on a damage protection waiver. I know in Furnish Finder currently, depending on the time when you're watching this, they also have a protection plan that is more affordable by going through. They partnered with Wavo, and they might change by the time you listen to this, but it's a good one that you can explore as well, because you may have some, especially if folks can afford a security deposit, there's a way there where you can get some security coverage. However, you're going to want to make sure that this is something that you factor into your plan's security deposit. If you have a damage waiver, you don't want to have to be filing claims all the time for stuff like this, and they honestly don't happen that often. Let's be honest, the volume of these things don't happen often, but it's only a matter of time. It's if it's not, if it happens, it's when it happens, and when it does happen, you're going to want to make sure you have the right coverage. So for us, in our case, we learned the hard way, but it's also the cost of doing business. We've been doing this for quite some time now, where for every tenant that stays, if I were to say that we're paying $15,000, to be a huge kind of misrepresentation of what's really happening in our business. And please don't let this be the reason why this scares you, of like, this is why I don't allow for pets. Do not think this way. That limited mindset will get you to actually not land as many contracts as possible, not be able to serve as many families as possible, and therefore not being able to be compensated for doing so. So don't have a scarcity mindset, have an abundance mindset. Know that there's an abundance of coverage out there that can actually serve you as an operator. It's just a matter for you to do your due diligence on which one is the right one, so that you're not finding yourself footing the bill. Don't be a penny wise and a dollar foolish when it comes to insurance. That's what I always say. There's multiple layers. There's damage protection of the goods within the home. There's the actual asset protection itself, like the home insurance policy. And then there's also security deposits and measures you can put into place, like cleaners getting access to the property every single month, as I mentioned in my 3 layers of defense video, that you can put into place to, again, mitigate the risk, right? Risk needs to be calculated and mitigated. I actually have a quote that I recently put on my Instagram, and it's pretty insightful, because it came from one of my mentors. It says, when you avoid the risk, you avoid the reward, right? But when you manage the risk, you then can eventually multiply the reward. So make sure that you are in a position where you've manage that risk. That's what all big companies do. If you want to be a big player in the game, this is your opportunity where you can also mitigate risk and manage the risk, because that's what the big players do. We don't avoid the risk, we manage it. And now you can also manage a $15,000 risk that does not have to be your risk. It was my risk now that I'm showing you, so it doesn't have to be your risk. All right. Or at least it doesn't have to be your reality. Even though it can be a risk, it doesn't have to be your reality. It doesn't have to be your truth. And with that, you are empowered to now continue to host these families, continue to serve, and offset your risk to the professionals who are structured in a way to protect you from those risks. With that said, if you got value from this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you're also grabbing the midterm rental insurance blueprint. We did a complete remodel of the blueprint to give you as much value as you may need. If you're looking to truly serve families and create some real partnerships in this space, you'll be handsomely rewarded for doing so. If you got value from this video, make sure you check out my 3 layers of defense for midterm rentals video.